Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back here with another video, and before we actually get into the video, I want to show you guys the end product. So this is what we're going to be building. It's a Navbar, which basically is fully responsive. So like when we get closer to here, you can see everything starts shrinking, and then it gets to a point where there's a button. You can click on this button and like all the links appear here, and it's basically like if you've worked with Bootstrap before, we're basically building the same thing but without using any libraries, so it's fully like pure React. And honestly, I prefer to do it this way. I don't like using libraries. The only styling library I like to use is like Material UI, however only for icons, and also maybe styled components, but we're not using any of those. We're just using pure React with CSS, and yeah, that's basically it. So let's go into the video. Okay guys, so let's start the project from the beginning. And you can see I have a simple like React application here. It has literally nothing, just an app.js, which we have here our app component, which currently just says like and subscribe, which you guys should do if you want me to continue posting videos. But yeah, basically we just have this and also the app.css, which is like nothing. I just added two things on the app.css, which is basically I told the body to have zero margin and zero padding, which is extremely important because you need to do that, or else we're gonna have kind of like weird stuff at the sides. And I also made the app component, basically the app div containing the whole screen, so being like 100% of the width and 100% of the height, so that we can play around with a nice canvas, so like a nice position, you know. So what we need to do is actually let's create a components folder. I'm going to basically create the Navbar component. So I'm going to come here and say navbar.js, and basically, oh, I accidentally wrote it wrong, so let me remove the comma here, navbar.js. So I can just say rfce, and for me, this is a snippet, so it basically just imports everything into my application, as you can see right here. And inside of here, we can start working with our whole Navbar. So what do I actually want to do in this Navbar? Well, first of all, I want to have a div which has a class name of Navbar, so that's something important. Then I want to, inside of here, divide my screen into two parts, right? So the left side and the right side. And obviously it won't look perfect, like it won't look clear at the moment, but what I want to do is, actually I want to have access to the app.css file in the Navbar. So we can basically implement CSS inside of here as well. So I do that by basically saying import, and as you can see right here, Navbar is inside of the components folder, so I can just say two dots to get out of the components folder, and now we're over here and we can just say app.css, and that's fine. So now we have access to the CSS file in this component over here, and let's come here to our app.css, and I basically will just simply try to access my Navbar. And what I want to do is I basically just want to, first of all, give it a background color. And I already chose, like I'm going to give the background color that I used in the example that I just showed you guys at the beginning of the video. Basically, to put that color, you can just write 021E39. So that's basically the color that I was using. And obviously, no color will be shown right now because the Navbar div is currently, like, it doesn't have a width and a height. So let's make it have a width of 100%. And also a height of like 80 pixels, sorry, so 80 pixels. And oh, also we're not seeing it because we actually haven't imported anything to our app component, so we can just come here and say Navbar, and we're calling the Navbar component, but we need to import Navbar. So Navbar from /components/Navbar. Now you can see that our Navbar should start appearing. Yeah, it appears right here because we're now calling the Navbar component inside of the app.js. And in our Navbar component, we have a div called Navbar, which we're setting all these different things in it to be have this background color and this height. So what else do you want to have? Well, on my whole application, on my whole Navbar, I just want to change the font to be Arial. So I'm gonna say, yeah, this right here. So Arial, Helvetica, and sans serif. That's fine. So I also want to make it a display flex. So why do I want to make it a display flex? Because basically on like normal Navbars, usually there's links on the side, maybe a logo, and there's like kind of a search bar over here. But the idea is you always want to have, like, usually people have stuff on the left side and stuff on the right side. So how are we going to do that responsively? So basically we're going to use Flex, and that will allow us to come here to our navbar.js, and inside of here we're going to create two divs. And this is something I always like to do. If you've seen like previous videos, probably you've seen me doing this before. So I create a div called left side, and I hate when this happens. So I created a div called left side, and I also created one called right side. And literally, since we have Flex, we can just say over here we can access the left side and the right side by saying navbar left side and give it a flex of 50%. And now the left side will have a size of 50% of the screen. And we can do the same thing for the right side so that it covers 50% of the screen. If you can't see it currently, it's because they literally don't have anything. Like let's add a background color so you guys can see. For example, the left side, let's make it red, and let's make the right side equal to blue. So actually green, let's make it green. So when I save it, you can see that it is clearly responsively divided into two sides, right? So that's perfect. And we obviously don't want the background colors. It was only to demonstrate it to you guys. And what we actually want to put inside of here is basically we want to put on the left side all the different links we want to have, and on the right side the search bar. So to put the links, we want to first of all create the links. So let's come over here. Sometimes what I like to do is, since if I have a bunch of links, I create an array of links and I map through each element, but I don't want to complicate stuff. So what I want to do is I'll just come here and say A, which is the tag for links, and I'll just put the name of the link. So let's create a home link. Let's create one for something like feedback, about us. I'll create 4 actually. Yeah. So let me come here, say something like feedback. I don't remember the ones that I actually put in the beginning of the video, but I'm gonna say feedback, about us, and contact, something like that. So contact, okay. And for each link, we need to give an href, which will be the path. So home will be /home, and you can see that after we do that, it kind of starts gaining shape of a link. So we can basically just add an href for each one of them, and we can change it to like /feedback. So if you're using React or DOM, which I won't show you guys in this video, but basically if you're using some way to create routes, this is basically the idea, right? This is just the links. So about us and contact. Okay. Okay, so we have four links, as you can see right here. And obviously they look horrible right now, but we're going to fix that. So how do we actually fix that? Well, what I'm thinking is maybe we want to create a div over here to wrap through all of them by saying like div, and I'll come here and say div, and then I'll basically call this div links. So links right here. And now on my app.css, I can basically come inside of here, and on my left side, like over here, I can just say .navbar .left side .links, and I want to basically just first of all set a max height of 80 pixels because I want the max height of this to be 80 pixels since it's the size of the navbar. And also something that is extremely important to do is we got to change all the looks of it, right? So what I do is I just come here and I say I want to access all the A tags, so all the links inside of it, and I just want to first of all remove the text decoration. So text decoration none. This will basically remove this kind of aspect, like the underline. Then I want to make the color equal to white. So white. The font family, I want to make it 25 pixels because that's pretty big, right? No, it's not font family actually, it's font size. I don't know why I said it font family. But font size will be basically this. And obviously it looks ugly right now, but that is because we need to separate them, as well as we can come here and we can just say margin left, something like 15 pixels, and it will kind of like separate them, as you can see right here. But you might be asking, well, why are they like kind of this way? Because we're actually like, it's not responsive at the moment. So I'm going to increase the size a bit of the screen so you guys can see. It's currently over here. We want to put them right at the center, right? So how do we do that? Well, we're going to come here to the left side over here, and I want to give it a display flex, and I want to justify content center. But the thing is, as you can see, it's only justifying stuff to the center. I want to give it an align item center, and it will now put everything to the center. However, we actually don't want to justify stuff to the center. Why? Because when we open this, you can see that the links are like right at the center of, like it's exactly at the center. We want to kind of keep them right at the side, right? So how do we do that? Well, actually, I want to say justify content left, and you can see it's pushed to the left, so it's always the same, right? So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. And maybe if we want, we can add some padding, but let's not do that for now. You can see our links are perfectly fitting, and now let's start working with our search bar. So how do we actually work with the search bar? Well, let's come here to our navbar.js, and inside of here on the right side, we can basically just come and say input. So input of type text, and inside of here, like over here, can have a button. So it's going to be an input and a button. And for now, let's just say search, but I'm going to use material UI icons on this video to basically add a search icon over here. But you can see this is the basic idea, right? And I also want to add a placeholder for the search because I like doing that. So placeholder equals search. And you can see that now there's a little message over here saying search. So that's perfect. We created everything for like the JSX part of the project. Now let's continue working on our app.css because it's the styling of the project. So since we already worked with the left side, let's start working with the right side. We're obviously going to be making more changes when we start working with the responsiveness of the project, but let's focus right now on the right side. So the first thing we want to do is obviously give it a display flex like we did with the left side, and we want to align items to the center, just like we did with the left side, so that the search bar is right at the center. But differently from the left side, we want to keep the search bar right over here. So we, instead of justifying stuff to the left, we want to justify stuff to the flex end, which basically means it's going to be right at the end over here. Oh, I accidentally saved the wrong place. So let me go to my project. Yeah, let me save it. You can see it's right at the right side. However, obviously it looks horrible because it's stuck right at the edge. So we want to add some padding right. So padding right, and let's make it 25 pixels. Let's see how that looks. You can see it's kind of pushed. That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So you can see it's kind of pushed, but that's okay. So what do we want to do now? Well, we want to basically just come and access the right side and grab an input. And the input will be basically this search bar right here. We want to increase its size. So I'm thinking width might be like 220 pixels, something like that. I don't remember exactly what I put, but basically height will be something like 30 pixels. And also we might want to have no border. And by the way, I'm just going to push this a bit so you guys can see the changes occurring immediately. So let's remove the border. Like it's increased in size. We remove the border, but we want to add kind of like a border radius to it. So border radius of like 4 pixels, so it looks a little bit better. And what else should we do? Well, I'm going to increase the size inside of it. So font size, it's going to be something like 20 pixels. As you can see, it increased. But because we did that, let's give it a padding left of like 15 pixels. So this search thing over here, it's kind of like pushed, as you can see. And let's finally just turn the color of the text equal to black. And that should be fine, right? So basically this is all we're going to do with our input. But we obviously need to change the button as well because it currently looks ugly. So let's do that. Let's come over here and let's just say right side dot button. And the button will basically be a bit different. The button will have a height of like something like 30 pixels. 30 pixels. Actually that looks a little bit smaller, so I'm gonna make it 20 pixels, 32 pixels. Yeah, that looks okay. So 32 pixels, and then we want to make a width of like 70 pixels, and maybe a font size as increased as well. So let me actually do it like this, 70 pixels, and now it's bigger, but let's increase the font size. So font size, let's make it equal to something like 16 pixels. Okay, so it looks a little bit better now. And you can see that it's currently kind of responsive, but it's not responsive when we do this. And we're going to fix that totally. We're going to replace this to like a button, which will basically open up the links over here. So That's the important part of it. And also, I just want to make a final change. Whenever I hover a button, no matter where in the application, I always want to basically change the cursor to pointer. So what I like to do is I just come here at the top and I say every single button in the application, I want to give it so that when you hover it, you change the cursor to pointer. And now if I come here and I just hover it, you can see that cursor is now a pointer, which is great, right? Because it just looks better in my opinion. So now let's start working with the functionality of like basically making, whenever we decrease this a bit, it will start to decrease the size of the link, right? So how do we actually do that? Well, we use media queries, and I think you guys like, if you're like most of people already know about media queries, but it is a great, like it's the way to determine and do something with your CSS if your screen is at a certain like width and height. So basically, if I say, for example, add media only screen, so screen and max width, so width is equal to like something like 850 pixels. I remember it being 850 pixels, that's why I'm saying it. We can basically do this, and what does that mean is basically we are only going to render stuff. So whatever we put inside of here is only going to, oh, I accidentally put an L here. So it's only going to occur if the width is less than 850. So whenever we shrink our size over here for the width for the screen, whatever CSS we put inside of here will be taken into account. So what I want to do is actually, I want to decrease just the size of these links. So how do I do that? Well, I come here to links, so Navbar links A, I grab that, I put that inside of here, and basically if the width is equal to 850, I want to decrease the font size to like 20 pixels. It was previously 25, so you can see that when I'm not currently at 850, but if I reach it a bit, you can see the size decreases. So this, like the font size decreases to look a little bit better, but we're gonna add another one when it reaches something like 750 to decrease a little bit more. So let's just copy this and let's add a 750 max media, max width, and let's decrease this to like 15 pixels. So let's see if I get to 750. Yeah, now it looks better, as you can see right now. And the important thing is, when we reach this, we no longer want to just decrease the size of the links. What we want to do is we want to replace this completely with a button that when we click on it, it will open up a model or whatever you want to call it, a div down here containing the links. So now is where we actually work with that. So how do we actually do that? Well, it's very simple actually, especially when you're working with React. What I like to do is I like to come here and I like to import the useState hook, so useState. And inside of here, I can just say const, and I'm going to create a state which is going to represent whether or not we want to show the toggle or not. So it's going to basically ask us if we want to show this, like the div appearing here with the links or not. So I'm going to call it show links and set show links. And I'm going to decrease this a bit because now we don't even need to have like a huge browser size. So I'm just going to say use state, and it's going to be a boolean, which is starting to be false. So whenever you render your application, obviously you don't want to show the links automatically. You only want to show them when you click on a button, and that's something that is actually important, and we're going to do that before we actually start working with the states. Basically we want it so that whenever you reach this size, this links disappear and a button appears here. So how do you do that? Well, it's even more simpler. You can just come here and just add a button over here, which is going to be something like open. We're going to add, like you can see it's appearing over here, but we obviously don't want it to appear if we're like this. We only want it to appear if we reach a certain width, right? So what we do is basically we come here to the app.css, and when it reaches something like, I'm going to say 650, but I don't know if that's exactly what we want, but 650, if the width becomes less than 650, we want the button to appear. However, if it isn't, then we don't want it to appear. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's come here to left sides. I want to grab the left side dot links button. Actually, it's not dot links. It's just left side dot link. Left side dot button. So I want to access the button in the left side, and I want to turn it equal to display none. Okay. display none. So you can see the button currently doesn't exist, and it will never exist unless we turn it on. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'm going to copy this, and here at the bottom, if the screen becomes less than 650, we want to make it display flex, so that it literally was none, like the display was none, but if it becomes less than 650, you can see the button appears, right? And that's great because it's exactly what we want. However, we also want to not only make the button appear, but we also want to make the links disappear. So what do we do with that? Basically, we can just come here and say, when it's less than 650, we want links, not A, so links to be display none. So you can see that if we reach 650, the links will disappear and the button will be the only thing in the screen, right? So that's great for us, and yeah, that's perfect, right? So now that we have that done, we want to basically be able to click on the button and change, basically make it appear down here. However, let's also make the button look a little bit better, and I'm just going to make it by basically coming here and saying margin left, I don't know, 20 pixels, and it's going to like, oh, I forgot to add the, yeah, and it's going to be pushed a bit to the side. You can see right here, the button now is over here. We're obviously going to make it look better when we add the material icon, but that's okay for now. And now let's come here to the navbar, and basically remember that this state right here represents whether or not we want to make the div showing the link appear or not. So how do we actually ask that? Well, we need to have we're going to come here to the links, and we're going to add an ID to the links. Basically, this ID will be called hidden, and basically when the ID is equal to hidden, when there is an ID in this div called hidden, we want to make it so that the div appears just like you saw in the beginning of the video, and the links are all like perfectly aligned. However, when the ID there's no ID hidden, then we don't want to show that, and we can ask that by basically, instead of saying directly ID equals to hidden, we're going to ask if show links is equal to true. So if it is equal to true, then we want to set the ID equal to hidden. If not, we just want to set it equal to an empty ID. And why is this important? Well, because if we come here to our app.css, we can just come to the top over here, and we can now access the links which has an ID of hidden, and that is great because that means we can basically set a new, like a different style for the links that will change whenever we click on the button. So let's do that. Let's actually come here to left side links, and I'm just going to copy this right here. I'm going to put it down here. I'm going to remove button. I'm just going to say left side hidden. So I'm accessing the hidden, right? And for like initially we want to make it equal to display flex, and that's literally it for the moment. But the important thing is we want to basically set it so that whenever we reach a point down here, when it's like really small, when we click on this, it should appear. So what I want to do is I actually want to set it equal to true initially, so we can see it, so we can kind of see the changes we're making. And I want to come right here at the bottom, and the only time that this div will appear is actually when the max width is equal to 650. So inside of here, I can just come and say navbar.left side and hashtag hidden. So we're accessing the hidden version of this div, and inside of here we're gonna make some drastic changes to how this div, the left side div, exists. For example, we want to make it a position absolute, and then we want to basically give it a left to be 0 pixels and a top to be like, we want to basically start this div down here. So we know that the navbar has a height of 80 pixels, so we can just say we want the top to be 80 pixels. And then after we do that, we can just set a height. I usually set this equal to auto, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll make it to 30 pixels. And the width will obviously be 100%. And I want to set the background color equal to exactly the same background color we had before, which is this one right here. And you can see right now, if I refresh the page, the div appears, right? If I make this equal to false, then the div doesn't appear, because there is, if it's false, then there isn't an ID called hidden. And that's the basic idea, right? But obviously the div isn't perfect yet. For example, we want the links to be stacked up on top of each other. So how do we actually do that? So we come here and say display flex, and we give it a flex direction, which basically means we can set it equal to column, which will make them stack on top of each other. And then we basically can just say something like a line item center, and they will be pushed to the center. And yeah, I think that's like basically it for this div. However, let's access the links inside of this div so that we can make it we can make them separate from each other, because they're currently like really close to each other. So you can just come here and say something like margin like 20 pixels, and let me see, I think it's too big, the margin, right? So let me make it 10 pixels. The margin currently is too big, so let's, how would we do that? Well, actually the height is not being set for some reason. Let me give a max height of 230 pixels. Oh, okay, yeah, so I set a max height at the top here to be equal to something like, I forgot, it's at the top here if you want. Yeah, I set it equal to 80 pixels, but that was before when we only had this Navbar. So now that we want to increase it, we can basically set it equal to 230, and you can see that now this is perfectly fitting. It's now like they have a margin between them, and that's fine. We also want to increase the font size. We want to make it 25 pixels, and it looks a little bit better, as you can see right here. And obviously this won't appear if we increase the size. It only appears if we decrease. However, we want to change it because we want it so that whenever we click on the button, this will appear, and whenever we don't click on the button, like whenever we click on the button again, it will disappear. Currently it's just showing. So I'm going to set this equal to false, and in order to do that effect, I'm going to come here to the button, I'm going to give it an onClick event, and inside of here I want to basically just pass an empty function, an anonymous function, and I just want to say set show links equal to not show links. What does that mean? Well, we want to set the value for show links equal to the opposite of whatever it was. So show link starts as false. If I click on the button and it is like over here, if I click on the button, it will say true, because not false is equal to true. But now it's true. So if I click on the button again, it is false. You get what I mean, right? So we now have this effect. And remember that this only appears if we get close to here. So that's actually like mostly what we want to do. There isn't much we can change now. The only changes we want to add is basically add the material UI aspect to it. So we want to add the links, right? So I have two links that I actually have written down, two icons, sorry, that we can use in our project, and I'm going to install material UI. So to install material UI, you want to first yarn add material, so actually add material UI / core. You want to first do this, and then you want to add also material UI icons. So these two libraries are the ones you want to install. So after you do that, because I already did it, and also if you're using npm, you just change yarn add to npm install. After we do that, we can come here to our basically our main application here, and just copy what I write here because I have it written down. These are two icons that serve perfectly for what we want. So I'm just gonna say from add material UI / icons, and the other one is basically a search bar, a search icon. So I'm gonna copy and say search icon, and now we have these two icons which we can use to basically correspond to the buttons. For example, with this open button over here, I want to use the, instead of saying open, I want to use the reorder icon that exists in material UI. So reorder icon / okay. So now if we do that, you can see that if we refresh it, did it break? It's compiling for some reason. Okay, it's compiling. I'm gonna basically just stop the server and run it again. So yarn start, it's gonna start my application again, my React application. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to replace the search over here, the search button, to the search icon. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. So for some reason, yeah, it started the development servers, the server. Let's take a look to see if it's looking good. I don't know why my computer is super slow. I don't know why that's happening, but I'm gonna load my React and I'll come back in a second. Okay guys, so I'm back and I actually figured it out why I broke. We actually need to change this to icons slash reorder, and this will work now. We can also add a slash search here at the bottom, so slash search, and if I save this, you'll see it will start compiling our application again. And okay, wait, okay, so it's gonna compile our application again. Sorry that my computer is super slow, but I'm gonna come back after it finishes compiling. Okay, so I'm back here, and as you can see, if I shrink this a bit, you can see that now we have two beautiful icons. We have the search icon and we have the reorder icon. And if I click on this, it opens up. If we click on this, it doesn't. So it's perfect. It's already working. This is the final version. Basically, you can see it's fully responsive. I would recommend, like, if you want to, like, just to show you guys, this right here only occurs if the screen is this size. So to fix that, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna come here before any of you guys say anything about this. I'm just gonna come here and increase this to like 780. Did that fix it? No. Let's make this 800. Let's see if that fixes it. It doesn't. Let me make this 830. Okay, none of them were fixing it. Maybe just let me see the size of the screen of this. So the size currently is 850. Oh, okay. So actually I need to increase this over here to like 880, and yeah, now it's fixed. So you can see currently, you can just like, it's fully responsive. You can click on this button, it will open up and close. It's beautiful, and yeah, this is the basic idea. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the description. Comment what you want to see next. Leave a like, because I'm posting every single day, and I would really appreciate it. It will really help grow the channel. And subscribe if you want to see more, because again, I'm posting every single day, so I'd really appreciate if you did that. So really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I see you guys next time.